So if this year has left you emotionally and physically exhausted, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand, and you want to begin the year with a plan that's focused on being mentally healthier and emotionally in a more balanced place. Watch this episode until the end. This video will give you 3 actionable tips for a year connected to strengthening our mindset and overall mental well-being. So my first question I'm going to ask you is, how can you feel less empty? And this brings us to what I call and label being an emotional vending machine, which too often as human beings, as adults, and even young people can get into this habit of perpetually giving. And I want you to think about a vending machine. That light is on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You go in, you put your quarters in, you put your dollar in, whatever it is, you hit A7 for your Snickers bar or your Cheetos, whatever it is, and it comes right at you, it drops it, you go in, you get your Cheetos. But as human beings, we can become emotional vending machines. This is where it's so important for us to rethink our role as a parent, as a partner, spouse, sibling, coworker, whatever it is. Well, here's the deal. We can make ourselves that we're 24/7. We're constantly giving. The phone is constantly on. We're constantly, heeding to the call of whoever's, messages. And it is not healthy. It affects us in so many ways. It's mind-boggling. If we're in a state of constant, ongoing, daily, monthly, weekly, monthly, yearly exhaustion, we're not in a good place. And that is not how we were intended to function as human beings. We have taken it upon ourselves too often to say, I just have to. No, you don't. And this transfers us into what I am going to call boundaries, still under the first tip. But boundaries and the emotional vending machine really go hand in hand. When we establish boundaries in our life for all different roles that we have, we're laying the groundwork, setting the foundation for the aspect of our wellness, but also our respect. Aretha Franklin just rocked it out so well. RESPECT, it's respecting ourselves. And when we establish those boundaries, it is then being cast upon other people saying, wow, man, that person really respects themselves. You can say no. And yes, that takes time. If we've had a lifetime of being people pleasers, of saying yes and kind of, I'll say, being walked over, and that can come in a lot of different forms. So what boundaries do? They create ownership. It's taking control, taking the reins of, this is as far as I'm willing to go. This is what my responsibilities. It's not being irresponsible. Again, it's getting back to the aspect of respecting ourselves enough that I owe it to myself to create these boundaries where really wonderful things happen because our cup is then fuller. We're emotionally more stable. Our wellness level goes up. And when other people, that respect level comes back at us, it's laying the groundwork for a greater sense of peace. How amazing is that? It fosters, hear me here, an assertiveness and has us evaluate where we are as a human being, as individuals, and what our needs are. We are triggered to think about and take in, what are my personal needs? And there are times that we don't even know what they are because we think we're supposed to be an emotional vending machine. Knowing that these things are critical, and knowing that as I go into the last 2 top tips, that all 3 of these truly go hand in hand when placed in action. So the next I want to look at is what I call funnel out the funk, and it has 4 spokes to this wheel. The first is relationships. Who have you been investing yourself in? Who, whether it's at work, at home, your friends, acquaintances, who we choose to layer ourselves with affects how we think. If we're surrounding ourselves with people who are encouraging and making us better, awesome. But if we're surrounding ourselves in the different facets of our life with people who are toxic and ripping us down, and it's only sarcasm, well, then call them out on it. When it comes to that, can be absolute massive funk fest. It is affecting us. The relationship. So the second one, looking at mindset. Mindset is important. What we tell ourselves, what we believe, go hand in hand. When we're talking or we're thinking negative things about ourselves, with time, we believe it. It's now saying, okay, this is where I'm going here. I love myself enough that I'm going to go forward, and I'm replacing these negatives, every one that comes to mind, with a positive. I'm replacing it with something that is tangibly encouraging. We have enough negativity that you hop on social media and it's easy enough to feel kind of funky about yourself. And I'll get to that later. But when we tell ourselves constantly, because maybe we've been told that for years through our relationships. So see how these go hand in hand. Our mindset is very important. And we can doubt ourselves sometimes and think these negative thoughts. It's time to do some spring cleaning in the winter. Bring it on, because you're worth it. Now, the third one of Funnel Out the Funk is what I'm going to call grudge, right? There are so many times that we get into life where we get caught in the past. And this can be really hard sometimes, can allow something that's happened to us or that's been done to us. And that can be a million different things and some really heavy things. But it's these things that can actually cause us to be weaker emotionally. It can impact our physical and emotional state. And it's coming to that fork in the road. And it's not saying that you've forgotten what's happened, but it's not allowing it. Where is this making me bitter? Or am I going to take a step forward? I'm not saying that this didn't happen, whatever it was. But grudges, when we have, I'll say, this chip on our shoulder, or we're holding something, it can make us crumble. And this is where it's part of that funk. It can deteriorate us from the inner core. And us as human beings, we're better than that if we choose to be. And that takes time. How do I get there? It takes time for us to work on ourselves, and having those, when it comes to those relationships, wise, objective people that can say, can help you through that process. Maybe it's time to go to a counselor, or I'm going to hear you out. But like, how many times have we complained about this and we're still in the same place? This is where relationships, mindset, grudge, these go together. And the fourth one is what we absorb. All of these go into the spoke of Funnel Out the Funk. What are you listening to? What are you reading? What are you, podcasts to, and social media, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever. All these things are movies, news. But if we're kind of hooking onto things that are kind of, we'll say, negative or cause us to question our worth, those are things that they need to be pushed to the side from this point on, because it's impacting our self-image, our self-worth, and it also will cause a rise in our anxiety. It's been proven in the past few years when it comes to social media use, it has driven anxiety numbers through the roof. Where are you loving yourself enough through this to say, some of this has got to go. Some of this has to be put to the side because I love myself enough. And we really sometimes can't even realize how much of an impact social media can really have on us. What news we're watching, what we're reading, what movies. We are now a society that is stimulated constantly. Our brains were not designed to be stimulated constantly. We need times of rest. And they're saying, okay, I'm going to be hyper vigilant in what I allow myself, my eyes and my ears to absorb. And this brings us to being kind to ourselves. Be kind to yourself. I say that kind is my favorite 4-letter word. Absolutely. You drop that sucker, kind. We have this tendency, sometimes it's easier to be kind to other people before being kind to ourselves. Ouch. It's true. We can be really hard on ourselves, but meet yourself with where you're at, because we are human. And if we have these expectations on ourselves to fulfill these 32 roles, these 18 roles, and to be perfect at them and on call, that vending machine all the time, we're setting ourselves up for failure. And that's where it comes out. Man, I'm so stupid. I'm an idiot. Or of course I did that. So the past is the past. It's still a part of us. It doesn't have to define us. We need to fight for that. It doesn't have to define us. With wherever your past 11.8 months have been, what are you going to do with it? Now, okay, I've made mistakes. Instead of beating ourselves up, what am I going to learn from it? How am I going to grow? It's getting excited about being alive instead of going through our everyday like it's mundane or cruise control, getting excited about being alive. And one of the things that I believe in pretty fiercely is having a bucket list. It could be, before the year's over, I want to learn how to crochet. before the year's over, I want to be able to run 3 miles. And so often we can make excuses from things, and I'm not saying your life is in crazy train, but they can actually, when we reach that goal, we check off that bucket list, it actually does so many beautiful things for our self-image, our self-worth. It gets us excited about being alive. Like, it gets us excited. And I know it's just awesome. Too many times we hit seasons in life that we're just kind of blah, and it's easy to fall into. Being unblawed, getting that excitement, and bucket list is truly one of those things. And making yourself a priority is critical. It's significant. If it's important. And I'll say this, if you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to check out this video talking about the power and beauty of change, embracing where we're at, and mental wealth.